Good day, people of the internet, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Matt and Matt at the Movies. I hope everyone had a happy holidays and a good new year. I'm your host, Matt Parkinson, and I'm joined this week and every week in the conceivable future, until he angers me enough that I kick him off, by Matt Gerald.
Howdy, internet. How's it going?
Topics this week include The Woman in Black 2, Rec 4, the films in 2015 we're looking forward to, and what we've been watching over the past week that we'd like to let you know about. But first, since this is the inaugural episode of Matt and Matt at the Movies, a brief introduction is in order. Because I'm such a nice person, I'll let Gerald go first.
Okay, so my name is Matt Gerald. I'm a writer by profession as well as by hobby. Been a film fan for several years, although really got serious about it in the last couple of years. Started doing a little bit of review writing here and there, and then finally, after watching a certain movie called Birdman last year, I got really inspired to start writing again, and I've been doing it ever since. And now here I am doing this lovely thing, and I know I will be better than my illustrious co-host, but he doesn't know it yet. So I'll turn it back over to him.
Well, at least you got illustrious, right? So I'm Matt Parkinson. I've been reviewing films for 4 years now, over 4 years, and have somewhere around 1,500 reviews floating around there. I think I'm 7 away or so from 1,500. My main home right now is boxofficeboredom.com. You can find every review I've written since 2012 on there. Soon enough, I'll have my own website, and that I'll take over the internet. Now, one of the main purposes of this podcast is to discuss each week's new theatrical and VOD releases. This week, only one film went into wide release, and it was the Daniel Radcliffe-less The Woman in Black, Angel of Death, henceforth referred to as The Woman in Black 2, since it's easier and because Angel of Death is a stupid subtitle. Yes, they made another one, but only because the first one made way more money than it should have. This one, set around World War II, and sees a couple of teachers and some school-aged children go out to that mansion from the first film in order to escape the London bombings. Unbeknownst to them, the Woman in Black is still hanging around, and soon enough our protagonist, one of the teachers, is seeing things. And, some children start dying. It's up to our teacher, Eve, played by Phoebe Fox, to figure out what's going on and save everyone. Now, if I haven't already made it clear from my introduction, I'll keep my thoughts on the film a little bit secret for now. Gerald, what'd you think of it?
Bang! Did that scare you?
No.
Good, because this movie didn't scare me at all either. So many jump startles, it drives me crazy. The characters were boring. The story was not interesting, and I'm honestly wondering why on earth there's a sequel. I know it made money, but still, why? Why is there a sequel to this for this movie?
It really did scream direct-to-DVD sequel to me.
Exactly.
But it got a theatrical release because nothing else was coming out.
Can we just end this tradition of having some really bad horror movie on the first weekend in January, please? Because I'm getting really tired of it.
But we need the Woman in Black 3 now. I'd like to end the tradition too, but it's not going to happen. Nothing comes out. What they really need to start doing is not waiting until the third week to release, or the second week to release the movies from 2014 that were only in limited so that they could get Oscar nominations. What they need to do is start releasing them more staggered. They need to release one the first week.
That would be excellent.
Then we can avoid something like The Woman in Black 2 and go see like Inherent Vice or
Selma,
yeah.
Something much more interesting and worth talking about. But unfortunately, we're stuck talking about The Woman in Black 2. So, since I obviously gave a less than positive opinion, what did you think?
I had a very, very similar opinion. It was, it's not scary is the main problem.
Not at all.
For a horror movie, I can forgive everything else if it's scary.
And unfortunately, all it really attempts to ever do is have some dim lighting and, like I said before, a ton of jump startles and let's be honest, that's what they are. They are not scary. They're only there to elevate your heart rate for 5 seconds, and then they go away because, they're boring. I mean, I'm sorry when you have a bird flying into a window and that's supposed to be scary. It's not. I'm sorry, filmmakers, it's not.
And it's not like the atmosphere is particularly scary either. Like, you can get jump startles, and they can be pretty effective if your atmosphere is strong, but The Woman in Black 2, it wasn't.
They managed to make the house look somewhat creepy, I suppose, being the disheveled... I mean, there's obviously the particular stuff with the hole in the ceiling in that one room that could be effective, but then they ruin it with a jump startle.
Don't really do a whole lot with it either.
Yeah, I mean, the only effective moment maybe is there's a scene where she's looking under the bed and you expect to see something, or you see the hand creeping out, but then they ruin it with a loud bang from the score, and sorry, you've just taken what would actually be a good horror moment and completely destroyed it.
See, I didn't even think the house was particularly creepy because we explored it pretty thoroughly in the first one. So it's basically we're just repeating things.
Yeah, that is very true as well. It's and then the light. I mean, okay, yeah, the dim lighting can be helpful, but then there were other instances where I was like, okay, am I supposed to be seeing something moving here?
Yeah, it was too dark.
Exactly. I was like, okay, I think there's something moving there, like, but it's so dark, I'm not sure.
It was the Alien versus Predators Requiem problem again. That movie, I mean, I feel like I didn't even see half of that movie. Because I couldn't see half of that movie. It was too dark. And I felt the same type of thing when watching The Woman in Black 2.
Yep, I would have to totally agree with you there. Very disappointing.
And even the score, I mean, it had basically three settings. It was either there was no score, which means a jump scare's coming. It was building up to a jump scare, which means a jump scare is coming. Or it was kind of a little bit eerie, which means that it'll eventually switch to one of those two modes so that a jump scare is coming.
I mean, when I'm particularly noticing a score because it stands out that badly, you're doing it wrong.
It was telegraphing everything.
Exactly.
Way too much.
I mean, even just the very first jump scare where she's standing by the creepy old guy's window and he just jumps out of nowhere. I'm like, okay, there's a jump scare coming because she's walking slowly, it's dark, and there's creepy atmosphere. So,
and it's a horror movie, and you know it's a horror movie. Like, the movie knows it's a horror movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right from the beginning. And that guy didn't even really have anything to do with anything.
Yeah, like he comes, he's there at the very beginning. He has one other scene, and then he's nowhere. I'm like, I mean, they tell you basically who he is, but it's like, okay, you basically. Actually, he never even had a name. I don't think.
I don't think so.
Basically, generic background character, number 532, and why are you here? I mean, and even the little bit of exposition he spouts isn't really all that important.
I guess to be fair to the main character, she figured things out a bit faster than Daniel Radcliffe did. That's something.
This is true, although if only because through lovely flashbacks we get that, her backstory is pretty much the same.
Which was just, it was, as you wrote in your review, is the writer trying to be clever and by trying to make the woman in black kind of similar to her.
Exactly. I mean, the rule of horror films is don't try to be so obvious with your stuff, and when you're gonna make your main protagonist basically the good version of the villain and add no depth to her, then you're not going to help yourself. And I mean, the other part that made the first one at least somewhat effective with that is solving the mystery of who the woman in black is actually helped the first movie a little bit. But if you've seen the first one, you already know it, and if you haven't, then the second one basically gives the game away by saying, her backstory is the same as our protagonist, so hooray.
And another thing about horror movies is the more that you see whatever's supposed to be scary, I mean, in this case, she wasn't scary in the first place, but the more you see of it, the less scary it's going to be. We see a lot of the woman in black in this movie.
Yes. Too much, and especially in certain places with jump startles that just... I mean, I think the only jump startle that I didn't see coming was one in a flashback, and the only reason why I knew about it is because it's in the trailer.
Yeah, the trailer gave away the best part.
Yeah.
I think the one that... There was one where one of the kids is goofing around with a gas mask. That one got me. That was okay.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Now that you mentioned it, I didn't see that one coming.
But it didn't have anything to do with the woman in black.
Nope. It's just the kid being a really mean jerk. And speaking of the kid being the mean jerk,
let's not talk about the kids.
But we have to.
We have to.
Unfortunately,
it's kids in movies in general are bad. I don't think that's something that needs debate.
That's pretty much a given, yes. You occasionally will get somebody good, but most often it's just not.
So in this one, we've got a whole cast of kids. There are like, I don't know, 6 or 7 of them, maybe more?
7, I think.
Okay. One of them in particular they focus on, and he's so boring. He looks completely uninterested in everything that's going on, especially when he's supposed to look like he's scared.
Yeah.
There's
I
one.
mean,
Go ahead.
I honestly, one of the things I comment on, he kind of looks like a pudgier but less interesting version of Damien from The Omen.
Yeah.
And he's just, I'm like, I'm supposed to care about this kid because, oh, he lost his parents and now he's an orphan, and he doesn't speak for basically the entire movie because he's supposed to be mute out of
Shock,
fear
I guess,
and shock, yeah. And I mean, he's basically there just as a plot device. He's not even a character of his own.
I almost get the feeling that the mute thing was written in after they hired him and figured out that he couldn't act.
That would be interesting if that was the case.
Like, I'm sure it's not true, but if it was a good idea, because once the kid talks, he's even worse.
Yeah, I mean, he's just...
I don't want to be too hard on him because he's just a kid, but my goodness, he's in a movie that we're paying $13 to see or whatever, and it's not good.
I mean, he's just there to be this nice little moppet of a character, and then when he starts interacting with the woman, and he's supposed to be creepy, and then they, of course, give him a doll to keep on with because
of course.
Dolls in these movies are always supposed to be creepy, and they rarely ever are. And I mean, then the drawing that he does, it's like, oh, this is ominous because he's drawing himself with the woman, and you see the other woman in the window, and it's supposed to mirror back to the tragedy that the woman in black suffered. I'm like, okay, stop being heavy-handed.
And it doesn't even make sense because she was attacking anyway. I mean, she attacked Daniel Radcliffe. Daniel Radcliffe did not lose his child.
Yeah, well, actually...
Well, kind of, but...
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on how you interpret the ending of the first one, but you're meant to think that they bit it at the end.
But not in the same type of way.
Right. It's not it's more symbolic, but you can essentially interpret that because Daniel Radcliffe's dead wife shows up, and so, yeah.
I feel like he had a name. His character had a name, but I can't remember it. I don't care.
The kid or Daniel Radcliffe?
Daniel Radcliffe. I know the kid's name.
His name's Arthur Kipps.
Right, Arthur.
Yes.
Doesn't matter. He's Daniel Radcliffe.
It really doesn't.
He's Harry Potter.
Pretty much.
And he didn't do a good job breaking off from Harry Potter, too. If we can divulge to the first movie for a bit. He was awful in that thing. My goodness.
I didn't think he was that great. I didn't hate him that much.
He explored the house with a mild curiosity.
Yeah, well, he's a lawyer, so...
Yeah, but even at, like, the scary points. It was just, this is kind of amusing. Huh.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was also because it was set in the late Victorian period. It was like, oh, don't be so into this whole ghost thing. And, I mean, basically that's what Kieran Hines was basically there for, to say, no, spiritualism, no, and ghosts aren't real. And I'm like, people are dying, shut up.
We're supposed to be aligning ourselves with the protagonist, though. Like, that's how it's supposed to work, and we know that the ghost is real.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see that happen again in the second one. I mean, Phoebe Fox's character, Eve, I mean, she sees the woman in black. Obviously, we know it. But then you get the Helen McCrory character, Mrs. Hogg, and she's like, no, ghosts aren't real. I'm not going to believe it. And then, of course, eventually she comes around to believe it, but only after it's way too late, and we've got 2 kids dead.
It's okay. We don't need any more kids in horror movies. Honestly, if they had killed off, it was Edward, right?
Yes.
If they had killed him off, I probably wouldn't have been too sad.
That would have been interesting. Although I must admit, I'm at least glad they didn't pull a third act plot twist with who he was.
Oh yeah, I was worried.
Yeah, if they had done that, I'd been like, I hate this movie already. I would have been ready to burn it in effigy just because if they'd done that. But thankfully they didn't. But of course, that ending decides to set up for another one.
Yep, there's going to be a Woman in Black 3 if this one makes enough money.
Well, it's doing pretty well at the box office, surprisingly, so we're probably going to see a third one.
Lovely. I'm hoping... My prediction is that if these movies continue to make money, we're going to jump around time periods like the Assassin's Creed video games do. It's a scary thought.
No, please no.
I think we'll go to modern day first. I think that's where the next one will be set, and then we'll jump around.
Lovely. For all intents and purposes, I hope your prediction does not come true. But
well, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, the Woman in Black just lives in this house. As long as
Pretty
the
much.
house, as long as the house has been there, and I don't know if we found out in the first one when it was built, so it could have been there for a long time.
Well, let's see. She. So that was set in the 1880s, and the woman whose house it was had just died, and so it had to have been there for a long time because
It was already looking pretty old.
Yeah, well, both she and the woman in black both had lived there, because the woman was impregnated, or the woman in black was impregnated by the old lady who owned the house, her husband.
Yeah.
At least as we find out in the second one. So it had to have been there for at least 100 years, I would guess. From the so, who can say? But I don't want to see another one of these movies.
And you could even have the woman in black's death caused by a previous woman in black, and go back even further. You could have this be a whole generation of things.
No,
Just
we don't.
imagine.
The level of meta-ness required for that is beyond these writers' talents
See,
to
at
come up
that
with.
at that point, it might actually start getting good.
Maybe, but do we honestly think the screenwriters are that clever? I mean,
No.
they decided to put a protagonist who's the same as the woman in black, except good. They're not that smart.
Then also throw in some random guy who was a pilot in the army, and then he was there. He was there basically for our protagonist to share her emotions with.
Oh, of course.
That was his
because-
point in the movie.
Yeah, well, that and then what he does at the end, but
You could have had anyone do that. You could have had the other
oh,
teacher
yeah.
do that.
yeah, well, that would have been more interesting.
That would have been
'cause-
better. That would have been a whole change of heart thing.
Yeah, well, kinda. I mean,
Kinda.
She had the change of heart at the end, but it was still boring.
Well, yeah, but
I
you
mean,
could have demonstrated it better.
This is true. I just, at least she exists basically to either be the denialist and then to spout Urzet's profundities about how, oh, we can't let doubt and despair overcome us, and like,
Yeah, it was weird.
Yay.
The movie tried to have like themes and stuff, and then it just completely neglected them.
they were pointless.
I know.
mean, what are you going to get out of this? It's like, oh, we have to be brave. We have to. It's World War II. Keep stiff upper lip. You know how that is. And I'm like, it's like Oscar bait in reverse. It's trying to do the same sort of pull of we must overcome and not be afraid of all this horror we have endured through this war, except it doesn't work.
It doesn't work at
all.
And, like I said
So.
at the beginning, all of this, everything we just said, could have been forgiven if it was scary.
Yep. And
But it wasn't.
jump startles, jump startles, jump startles.
And speaking of another horror film released this week, you didn't see this one, but the
No, I did
final Wreck film has come out on VOD, on iTunes, I guess, which kind of counts as VOD, but they always separate it for some reason. It's a direct sequel to the second film, completely ignoring the third one. And it finds Angela, played by Manuela Velasco, saved from that apartment building she spent 2 movies inside and taken aboard a ship in order to quarantine her. As it turns out, the ship isn't the safest place in the world, and, you kind of know how wreck movies go. They're zombie-like creatures attacking people in an enclosed space. But instead of, like, the first 2 movies were both found footage movies, the third one ditched that after 20 minutes, and this one doesn't have found footage at all. It's just traditional cinematography, which isn't all that spectacular. But I feel like, for this series at least, the found footage actually helped. I mean, you're not a fan of found footage.
No, I'm not.
I'm not the biggest fan of it, but in the Wreck movies, the fixed point of view, and it was it would help hide the creatures from appearing and startling you. It made them more effective. Whereas in this one, with the wide shots, you see them coming. You know exactly when they're going to pop up. And you're only hoping they're going to show up so that things get interesting. Most of Rec 4 is people wandering around corridors. Dark corridors, of course.
That sounds riveting.
Oh, it's so riveting. It's it's what I hope is the final Rec film, because the series wasn't as... I mean, I know a lot of people like at least the first movie. I've never been the biggest fan of it. And the high point for me was the third movie, which took things in a campier direction. Took place mostly in the daytime even, which is... That doesn't happen in horror movies a whole lot, because the daytime isn't scary. But still, it still managed to be just as scary as the other ones. It was just also campier. I mean, the main character is a bride who at one point wields a chainsaw and just cuts through a bunch of zombies.
Okay, that sounds awesome.
It's a lot better than, and even in the fourth one, our hero, who is basically just an annoying hyperventilist in the first two movies, becomes more action hero-y, and it doesn't work at all because they overdo it somehow, even despite the less than campy approach. It's just not good.
Two bad horror movies in 1 week.
Oh well. Next week will be better, right? Oh wait, no.
Well, maybe.
Maybe. The next segment of Matt at the Movies consists of us telling you what we've seen in the time between episodes, but this is kind of the inaugural one, so there's no previous episode. We're just going to go with about the last week. Gerald, what did you think was worth sharing?
Well, so since it's been the holidays recently, I hadn't been able to get up to it much. The main one I did see is a Netflix original documentary called Virunga. Have you heard of this?
I have not.
Okay, so this tells the story of a national park in the Congo, in Africa, and it basically is one of the last big such parks there because that land has been so ravaged by civil war and genocide in the last 15 years or so, or actually beyond that, 20 years, that it's just basically become a war zone, and you actually see that in the film itself, where they've got essentially a documentary crew of journalists there who are covering the Civil War, and you see little actual street fighting going on, and it's can get tense at times. But then you also get softer moments where you get into the park and the caretakers of the park, and they're talking about their relationship with the last. They're literally the home of the last mountain gorillas in the country, and you see the care that they put into this, and it kind of makes you really sad when you then counter that by showing these investigative journalists talking to these military leaders, and they're like, we don't care about these. And I mean, they're animals. Who cares? So all we want is control. And then when you then mix in the interests of a British oil company that wants to explore for oil in the park, then it becomes even worse because then, okay, so now there's collusion between this foreign oil company and the military locally, and then there's also this rebel militia that gets in there that's trying to fight everybody, and it really highlights the tragedy that's existing in that region right now. And what can I say? It's sad, but it's really good to see some exposure beyond, because the media over here doesn't really cover it all that much, except maybe to mention it here and there. This, you see the conditions on the ground, and if you aren't outraged by what's going on, then I don't know what to tell you.
Sounds like the perfect Merry Christmas movie.
Absolutely, of course. I mean,
that's the one you gather your kids round the fireplace and the television to watch.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Christmas Story, who needs it? Polar Express, forget it. No, let's watch the documentary about Civil War in Africa.
I find it interesting. Those are the two that you'd go with, but okay.
It's just the first two I come up with on top of my head. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the animated one.
The animated one.
Not that Jim Carrey abomination.
Yeah.
So that was basically all I was able to get to this week. What did you get to?
Well, I actually did see a more traditional Christmas movie. I saw Frozen, finally.
Ooh. Oh, finally. So you hadn't seen this before.
I hadn't seen it before. I'm very late to the party with this one, and the internet basically collectively decided it was the greatest thing ever in early 2014.
Well, it was. You know this.
It was good. I'll say this. It took a while to endear me to it.
Okay, what was it that endeared it without going into too much spoilers?
Well, around the time that its most famous moment, the Let It Go song.
Okay.
It was at that moment, it felt like a turning point, both in the story and both in, I guess, the way it told its story. It became funnier, it became more action-packed, it became more heartfelt. At the beginning, it was kind of shallow and not particularly interesting.
Okay. Did you find the pacing to be, awkward in any way?
Well, just a slow beginning, but...
Well, I guess what I mean by that is they cram a lot of stuff into that first act.
There's a lot. There's a lot of backstory. There's a lot of, but I still found it too slow, man.
Yeah, well, I can certainly understand that. It definitely picks up as you say with the Let It Go sequence, and that's kind of the transition out of the first act into the middle, where it's a lot more. It becomes more of a travelogue of sorts, and you really get the plot going. But the first act is still really critical because it sets our characterization that makes what happens in the second and then especially in the third act where it really hits.
Oh yeah, it's definitely important, but I feel like it probably could have been handled better.
I can understand that. How did you find the music, besides the Let It Go sequence?
The only song I'm going to remember coming out of it is Let It Go.
Oh, really? Why is that?
I don't know. I'm not a big music person to begin with, so a song really has to stand out in order for me to remember it. And, well, Let It Go is when, it played at the Oscars and stuff.
Yeah, it played everywhere.
And I haven't actually ever heard it on the radio.
Okay, I haven't heard on the radio.
I've heard that stupid Pharrell Happy song on the radio hundreds of times, and I hate that song. But I haven't heard Let It Go once.
Well, you are fortunate.
I find surprising.
It might have. I don't know. Having not listened to the radio in a long time, I can't say. But
I hate Happy, though. I just want to get that out there. It's the worst song I've ever heard on the radio.
Well, we could certainly debate about that, but this isn't Pharrellcast, so we will try to stay off of him for too long.
Fair enough.
The third act for me was interesting in how it pulled its twist, and I won't spoil what that twist is, but what did you think of that twist?
I think it was a good way to subvert our expectations. You expect Disney movies to end a specific way, especially once the concept of true love is brought up. And I guess that's as much spoiler as I'll get into.
Yeah, I think you hit it exactly on the head. It subverts expectations, and you think it's going to go one way, and then it goes a complete other way. And I didn't see that coming, and I remember being blown away by that when I was in the theater. And so yeah, that worked really, and especially like me being a big Disney aficionado from the time I was a kid, so I'm very much used to that formula that, okay, these movies are going to go this, and this, and that's that. And then it didn't, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. So
it's surprising and memorable, and you go, yes, this is important.
Yes, it feels like really Disney had evolved in a way for today's times where we're not doing the standard formula anymore. And you hope that they continue to learn from that. And as they go forward, I certainly hope so.
We hope that they've turned a corner and that they won't regress.
Exactly. Especially with the critical and then obviously the gigantic financial success that movie managed to garner.
Well, it's in the top 5 of all time or something like that.
It is now, or at least unadjusted for inflation.
Well, yeah.
So, but yeah, it made it to the top 5, and I'm still amazed that it's the first Disney Animation Studios film ever to do that. Now, technically, if you look at it, The Lion King is still actually the most profitable they ever had, but again, inflation, so nobody cares.
Now let's wait for Frozen 1.5. telling the story of the big frost giant.
That actually could be, well, if it was a short film, that would be okay.
He had my biggest laugh in the whole movie. His completely deadpan "Go away" was my biggest laugh from the entirety of Frozen.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, speaking of comedy, how did you find Olaf the Snowman?
I liked him. It was fun.
Okay. I was really worried about him going in because the marketing campaign.
Oh, it was bad.
It was so awful that trying to focus all on the comic relief or a couple of the adventure beats or whatever, and I was just like, there's no way this movie's going to be good. And then even the snowman turns out to be funny, and just the sincerity of his character. And
he even had a real heartwarming moment, and you're like, wow, this is surprising.
Yeah, well, it was heartwarming. That's rather appropriate. He was sitting by a fire.
I know. It was intentional.
Very good.
Thank you.
And then his song "In Summer" was still pretty funny for me. It wasn't the best song in the movie, but it made you feel like, oh, he's so naive.
See, I remember that segment, but I don't remember the actual song attached to it.
Okay. I mean, it's a little short number, so it's not one of the ones that's going to immediately stick out like Let It Go or even something like For the First Time in Forever. But any other thoughts you have on that movie?
It's a much better Christmas movie than a documentary.
Okay, that I will agree with, but you're also a year late to the party, so it's your fault.
Well, sometimes the hype gets to you and you're like, this can never live up to it. And then it kind of did, but also, it wasn't the greatest thing ever.
Well, I would never say that it was the greatest thing ever. I guess for me, it's probably the best Disney Animated Studios film since The Lion King, I think, just because we had, the Disney Renaissance from, well, officially it's 89 to 2000. I think it's more like 86 to 2000, but still. And then so much dark age period for Disney in the 2000s, and then it starts to pick up, and then Frozen just took it to a whole nother level. And I freely admit the hype for it was absurd, and you talked about the Let It Go being everywhere, and it was, and that did get very annoying. But at the same time, it's such a revolutionary film for Disney, especially right now, that I'm on board.
I'm on board too, and it's amazing that I liked it as much as I did, including Let It Go, with how overexposed that was, considering how hyped it was.
That is impressive.
Lots of things get hyped to the nth degree, and then you hate them because you've been promised something so great that it can't deliver. Whereas Frozen at least more or less did.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it at least delivered fairly well for you, especially, again, being a year late to the party. I still don't know how you managed that, but congratulations.
I will say, though, that I liked it just about as much as Tangled.
Okay.
Tangled was still a pretty good movie.
Yeah, Tangled's the one that it often gets compared to. I remember back last year when it came out, I guess 2013 now, people were saying that there was arguments whether or not Frozen was better than Tangled, and I like Tangled. I would still put Frozen above it just because of, again, those subversions that we talked about, how it makes it so much different from Tangled.
It's a more important film, if nothing else.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. We've said revolutionary and evolution. Yeah, it's more important.
Well, that seems like it's a good enough point to end the Frozen discussion on, which brings us to our last segment, our topic of the week, which at some point may be sponsored by someone, but this is the inaugural episode of Matt and Matt at the Movies, so it'd be kind of weird to have sponsors already. Our topic this week is the films we're looking forward to in 2015, given that this is the first week of the year, and in all honesty, I'm pretty much going to say that none of our films are going to come from January. I didn't put any anyway. I don't know about you.
Nope.
I've let you start the last two segments, so I'm going to start this one. The first film on my list is Jupiter Ascending. Now, I loved Cloud Atlas. I know you did too.
Yep.
It was probably one of the best movies of 2012, if not the best. And the Wachowskis, they have my attention right now.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because Jupiter Ascending is actually the first one on my list as well. Like you said, Cloud Atlas, a divisive movie at the time, but I still really loved it. I loved the visual style that the Wachowskis brought to it. Obviously, yes, they're still somewhat riding the Matrix hype train, but that got deflated with Speed Racer and so on.
Which was good. Speed Racer was good.
Well, we could debate about that, but this is not Speed Racer cast. And so after Cloud Atlas, I was like, okay, what are they going to do next? And now you started seeing stuff for Jupiter Ascending, and I'm like, okay, this actually looks interesting. The cast, it looks pretty. Mila Kunis, Channing Tatum, Sean Bean, Eddie Redmayne, fresh off his performance as Stephen Hawking, is going to be our bad guy. So I'm like, okay, now I'm kind of interested there. And then again, the visual effects and style look...
It looks stunning.
It looks unlike anything I've seen recently in terms of sci-fi. And the only thing that concerns me right now is the fact that it got pushed back from July last year, like 3 weeks before it was scheduled to release. Now, maybe that's just because they were polishing up the effects or something. I don't know, but...
That was the excuse, anyway.
That's the excuse, but whether that's actually the case or not, I don't know. But I'm really hopeful for that movie. I want to see the Wachowskis make another, especially because Cloud Atlas, while it was divisive with critics, it didn't also do very well at the box office, unfortunately. So I want to see them return, and
I want to see them make money so that they can keep making movies, basically.
Exactly. I mean, they're visual stylists who are more or less unlike anybody else, I think. And I mean,
even Speed Racer looked great. Even if you didn't like it, looked great.
The visual style is the one thing that's like really distinct in Speed Racer. I will certainly grant you that.
And Jupiter Ascending, I don't know if it's going to be good, but I want to see it anyway.
I'm right there with you. I'll be in theaters February 6th for Jupiter Ascending.
Yeah.
So what is your second anticipated film of the year?
Chappie.
Ooh, Chappie.
Which I don't know if it's on your list. It's by director Neil Blomkamp. I probably pronounced that wrong. Director of District 9 and recently Elysium, which was less good. And honestly, I don't even know what Chappie's rated. I mean, I saw a trailer for it. It looked like it was going to be more of a family film.
I think it could get a PG-13 potentially. I mean, it depends because it looks like there's going to be some elements of violence in it with like shootouts and things. So I think it could probably at least be PG-13. But I don't know off the top of my head.
But then I've heard things that it's going to be very profane and very violent. I'm like, well, that gets me really interested, especially because Elysium wasn't really that bad, but I think it still got an R.
Yeah, it did.
And District 9 definitely did.
Yeah,
and what I want to see is if he can recapture what he got in District 9. I mean, Elysium was fine. Elysium, it wasn't bad. But District 9 was really great.
Yeah, I think it'll really show, is Neil Blomkamp really a talent, or was District 9 just kind of a fluke, and then he's just hasn't made it work since. So I think you're right. That'll be a definite test to see if Neil Blomkamp is for real or not.
And it looked more like a return to what District 9 did. Like its trailer, it looked more similar.
Yeah, you notice in the trailer, it doesn't say from the director of District 9 and Elysium. It just says from the director of District 9. So they don't want to remind you of Elysium right now.
Yeah. Was Chappie on your list, or was...
No, Chappie did not make my list.
Okay, what's next on yours? Next
one on mine actually comes out the week after Jupiter Ascending, February 13th. It's Kingsman: The Secret Service.
Yes.
From the first time I saw this trailer, I was like, okay, I'm on board. I mean, Colin Firth looks really awesome in his action role. I love this idea of this secret organization, and just the action scenes I've seen of it look really awesome. You see the trailer and you see Samuel L. Jackson as the villain, and he's got this
lisp
as an affectation, and it's hilarious to watch. And then the real life Blade Runner woman with those blades on her legs, and I'm like, oh, there's going to be action sequences with that. So I'm like, yes. And then finally, Matthew Vaughn directing. I was a huge fan of X-Men First Class, the original Kick-Ass as well. So that's all I need. I'm on board with that.
I've got to say I'm looking forward to Kingsman as well, which I get to see significantly earlier than you. But let's ignore that.
Well, only because you're the one who gets to see it earlier.
Yes. Michael Caine's in it too. He looks like it almost looks like an unofficial James Bond movie.
Yeah, it's definitely.
But with teenagers.
Yeah, that does concern me a little bit. But then I also think that because Matthew Vaughn can direct action very well, I think he'll make it work. And I mean, we know they can at least get kids to give good performance because he drew obviously Chloe Moretz's star-making turn, and he's given Aaron Taylor Johnson his only good performance that I can think of off the top of my head, of maybe Anna Karenina, maybe. But yeah, so I'm right there with you. I'm very much looking forward to Kingsman: The Secret Service, number 2 on my list.
Number 3 on my list is Avengers: Age of Ultron, because I'm on the Marvel train.
Yep.
Apart from a couple of rocky ones in the first segment, like the first Thor and the Incredible Hulk, which I didn't like either of those. I don't know about you.
I thought they were all right. I think the rockier ones for me were Thor 2 and Iron Man 2, in terms of being just either unfocused or just not as interesting. I mean, I thought Thor was all right, the first one at least, largely because it was introducing this weird fantasy element that you hadn't seen yet at the time from Marvel. I mean, now it's obviously easily there, but and actually Age of Ultron is number 3 on my list as well. So
I get you on Iron Man 2 because eventually it felt inconsequential. Is I guess the best way to put it. We started and ended basically at the same point.
Pretty much.
So it felt largely like we didn't need it.
Overall, yeah. I mean, I think I'm trying to even think if there was. No, there really wasn't a point to it. I mean, it was basically okay. Yeah, Iron Man has problems in his personal life, and yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, and it swapped out Terrence Howard for Don Cheadle in the War Machine role, but other than that, I mean, yeah, it really was inconsequential and led to nothing. I mean, at least, like, okay, Iron Man 3 at least felt somewhat useful in that regard because it was the immediate follow-up to the Avengers, and so you got some of the PTSD elements involved with that, and then Thor 2 really did nothing for me.
Thor 2 felt like I liked Thor 2, but I only liked the parts that didn't feel like a Lord of the Rings ripoff.
Yeah, well, that, and then for me, it was also, it felt in a lot of ways like what DC's been going through, where it's just shuffling around for the next plot device, because the main plot element of that is, okay, we have to introduce this next Infinity Stone MacGuffin, because this is where we're leading to eventually 5 years from now with Avengers 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So that felt rather inconsequential. But then last year, I mean, Marvel gave us Captain America 2 and Guardians of the Galaxy, and they killed it with both of those. And so, well, we're going. Okay, we will save that discussion for later. So I'm very much on board with Age of Ultron. The big concern I have with it is it's the second one of these, and we all know what happens in the second one. It gets darker, bad things happen. Empire Strikes Back, etc., etc.
Somebody might die.
Somebody will die. I can pretty much guarantee it.
Jeremy Renner, start looking for work. Start looking for other jobs.
It won't be Jeremy Renner.
It might be.
Probably not. Well, actually, the only reason why I know it's not going to be Captain America is he's got a third movie coming out.
Exactly.
Because otherwise it's going to be him.
Well, see, the ones that are still under contract, we know they won't kill off.
Yeah, well, Chris Evans is the one who's most likely to leave, I think, of the main ones, because A, he wants to get out of being an actor and focus on directing, and they've got a ready-made backup for, actually, they technically have two ready-made backups for Captain America, with Winter Soldier stepping up. So
Downey Jr. is done soon, too. He's too old.
Yeah, well, he's signed on, I think, for a couple more of these. I don't know if he'll do another Iron Man, but he's definitely going to do...
He's going to do the other Avengers.
Yeah, and he's also going to show up in He's also going to show up in Captain America 3, because Civil War is basically Iron Man versus Captain America. So he's got to be there at least.
I see him not dying, but retiring from the Iron Man role and maybe taking up... Actually, if they're going to kill anyone, it might be Samuel L. Jackson. And taking Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. as his new job.
Yeah, I could certainly see that. Okay,
So
so that was number 3 on both of our lists. So what do you have for number 4 then?
I have the very largely unknown Tomorrowland, which I don't know a lot about, because it's been kept kind of secret.
And that's good. So actually, Tomorrowland is number 5 on my list. It looks like this thing about this disaffected teenage girl who's kind of like doesn't care or what have you, and then she gets magically transported to this future utopia land where like anything can happen or and I mean, you get George Clooney making his speech about like, if you could make anything happen, would you? And you want to try this or what have you. So, but you're right, it has been kept very secret. But
it looks really interesting.
It does. The thing that stands out most for me is Brad Bird.
Yeah.
I love Brad Bird. I mean, his work with Pixar put him on the... Well, actually, technically, his work with The Simpsons and then The Iron Giant put him on the map, but then...
Pixar, then the Mission Impossible.
Yeah, and he's definitely made the transition from animation to live action, unlike his counterpart Andrew Stanton, who kind of flopped with John Carter a couple years ago. But yeah, he's transitioned very well to live action work, and so I'm really looking forward to Tomorrowland to see what they bring us, because it's Disney. It looks fantastic from the brief teaser we've seen.
That's a strong cast.
Yes.
Good director.
I want to see more. I'm really looking forward to it. That coming out in May.
So what's number 4 on your list then?
My number 4 comes out a week before Tomorrowland. It's Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
And I mean,
based it could be just based on the trailer.
Yes, that is literally it. Actually, so that's the big thing, because you see that trailer, I'm like, this looks like the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. And I mean, it's George Miller coming back to the desert. It's future dystopian apocalypse with the crazy cars, and then Tom Hardy in the lead. And
He's doing really well for himself.
Tom Hardy's been phenomenal in the last few years. I mean, Inception and Locke. I loved Locke, or at least his performance in it for sure. And so yeah, as soon as you said, okay, Tom Hardy, Mad Max, and then those trailers that I've seen, I'm like, okay, you have me sold. And I don't even have to deal with Mel Gibson in this one. Yay!
Well, he might have a cameo.
Well, one can only hope not.
See, Mad Max would have made my list had I seen the other ones. I've seen the first one.
So...
But I haven't seen the second and third.
Guilty admission, I've seen none of them, and yet it still made my list.
Okay.
So.
Well, fair enough.
Although I will be seeing them, especially because they have a trilogy collection out now that you can get them all in one cheap price. So I'm going to definitely catch those three before I see Fury Road, just so that I'm on. Although, from what I understand, Fury Road is a prequel to the original. So I might not even need that.
Not necessary, but you should probably do it.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely going to check those out well before I see Fury Road in May.
I'll be seeing them probably in May then, because I'm a procrastinator.
Okay, so that's 4.
Number 5 on my list was the other Marvel movie, Ant-Man, which we're getting we got a teaser for the trailer, which is out soon, I think.
One would hope.
And it's basically, I'm just on board the Marvel train. I want to see what they do with a new character. I want to see where they're going with the next segment of Marvel movies. And I kind of want to see it because it sounds like a mess.
That's why it didn't make my list, and why I'm honestly genuinely afraid of it, and I could very well see it being their first real flop, because the behind the scenes chaos they've had script wise, and then obviously Edgar Wright, yes, leaving.
Well, could you imagine an Edgar Wright Ant-Man? That'd be great.
That would be glorious. Which, I mean,
isn't happening.
I know, it was so depressing, because I mean, okay, yeah, call me a nerd, but I love Edgar Wright's films. I mean, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, I adore. The Cornetto trilogy, I love all 3 of those. So, yeah, I mean, I was really sad when Edgar Wright got kicked out. So, I am genuinely worried about Ant-Man. I mean, I'm still going to see it, but I'm not anticipating it very much.
See, I get the feeling that Wright left on fairly good terms. I think he left of his own volition, not that he was thrown out. And I'm thinking that a lot of the pre-production work that he did is still going to be in place.
I can only hope. I mean, this kind of brings up another. It's not a Marvel Studios film, but a Marvel associated one was X-Men: Days of Future Past last year, where Matthew Vaughn directed First Class, but then he only stayed on a producer and scriptwriter for Days of Future Past. And I honestly didn't like it nearly as much as First Class personally. So I worry that the behind-the-scenes stuff will hurt Ant-Man even worse, because it's again a new character. It's weird. I mean, we've already done weird in Marvel, but this is something completely weirder. Which I couldn't believe I could say that after watching Thor and then Guardians of the Galaxy. But so I hope it's good. I'm still going to see it, but I can't get too excited about it because I'm worried.
I'm worried, but I'm excited anyway. I want to see it. I want to see how it turns out, and that's a feeling for a couple of the ones on my list.
Well, I can certainly understand that. So that's 5 from both of us. So what's your number? Yep. What's number 6?
It's your turn.
Okay. Well, number 6 then. This is honestly actually the one I'm anticipating most this year, even though it's number 6 because I'm doing this chronologically. Inside Out.
Okay.
Finally.
The new Pixar, right?
Yes. This is one of 2 movies that Pixar's putting out next year. I don't really care much for The Good Dinosaur because that just sounds ridiculous. But Inside Out, especially after seeing the teaser trailer that they put out, it finally feels like it's Pixar being Pixar again. Brave was such a disappointment. Cars 2 was abominable. And I want to see... Oh, Monsters University. Monsters University was pointless. I don't know why they made it.
It was kind of fun, though.
No, it wasn't.
It was fun enough.
No. But that can be discussed later.
We can do Pixar films one day.
I'm sure we will. But Inside Out really feels like a Pixar movie. It's going inside the heads of our characters, particularly our main kid character, and it's embodying her emotions, and so you get comedic moments, you get dramatic moments. I mean, I love this concept, and it's Pete Docter directing, and if I recall correctly, Up was his big movie, and Up
might be the best Pixar movie. It's in the running. It's in the running.
It's one of their better ones. I wouldn't even call it top 3 for me personally, but that's just me. So, like I said, it really feels like Pixar doing their thing again, and I'm so excited to see that, because just their last 3 films have been such disappointments for me because of the immense clout they earned from me with their run from, The Incredibles and Ratatouille and WALL-E and Up and Toy Story 3, that is just like, come on, Pixar, please give me something good for once. And I really think that they will be able to pull that off with Inside Out, so I'm very much excited for that.
My hope is with like Cars and Monsters University is that those were made so that they could have the financing for something like this.
Well, that's the thing. They don't need the financing because they're an arm of the Disney Corporation.
Well, you wouldn't think, but for a more personal project that isn't just another sequel or another...
Well, Cars 2 is definitely a passion project because Pixar head John Lasseter is just really in love with the Cars universe.
No, Cars 2 was made to sell merchandise.
Well, that too, but it is actually legitimately a John Lasseter passion project because that's why he created the first Cars, is just because he loves that so much. But yes, Cars 2 was a cynical cash grab.
Cynical cash grab.
It is easily their worst movie, period.
Yeah.
There's no debating that.
No. So I'm hoping that they've done that, they've appeased their Disney bosses, and now that with Inside Out and even The Good Dinosaur, that it'll be a return to form.
I'm hoping so. The thing that worries me about The Good Dinosaur is, again, behind-the-scenes production problems where they kicked the director out of his role, and then it got pushed back an entire year and a half, or at least a year.
At least a year.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, that title, The Good Dinosaur, makes me think this is something for like 5-year-olds, and I'm sorry, the thing about Pixar is, yes, they are certainly animated movies, but they're not kids movies. They're movies for everybody.
They're family movies,
exactly.
But not in the derogatory sense.
Yes, it's not. They don't patronize. Yes, there's bright colors and funny moments, but everyone can enjoy just about every Pixar movie except for Cars 2. So. Yeah, I do worry about The Good Dinosaur for those reasons, but thankfully we're still getting two Pixar movies, and one of them is on my most anticipated list with Inside Out. So, what is next on your list?
The new James Bond movie, Spectre.
Ooh, also on my list.
They need to stop taking so long between James Bond movies. I see one of the new ones, and I'm like, I need another one of these.
Well, Skyfall was 2012, so it's not like it's been that long.
It's 3 years, though. We had 2 years between Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace. Mm-hmm. Then we had 4 years between Quantum of Solace and Skyfall.
That was partially because Quantum of Solace was
so
bad. Or at least
MGM went bankrupt is why.
Yeah, that didn't.
And I don't think that was Quantum of Solace's fault. I think it still made a good chunk of money.
It did fairly well.
But then Skyfall came out and it was pretty good.
Yeah.
And same director, Daniel Craig's still there.
Yep. They've
added Christoph Waltz and Dave Bautista, which just makes me happy.
Christoph Waltz's casting makes me gleeful beyond belief because I love, especially if, given the title being Spectre, if it turns out that he's playing Blofeld or somebody like Blofeld, then yeah,
it's going to work out well.
Exactly. And then, Sam Mendes, who'd have thought he was a great action director, but Skyfall proved that. And I think the other thing for me is that Skyfall really, in the Daniel Craig era, felt like the first true James Bond film. Because, Casino Royale was good, but it didn't quite feel the same way of a James Bond film, like what the Connery movies, or even somewhat at least the first Pierce Brosnan movie, GoldenEye, felt like. But now with Skyfall, I felt that, and so getting Sam Mendes back, and we got Daniel Craig, obviously. I'm trying to. I think Idris Elba is also in it, which that also makes me gleeful because I love Idris Elba. I think so. But either way, I'm really looking forward to seeing all the stuff that they're going to come out with from that. Okay, so maybe he's not. Okay, so I'm wrong. Whatever. I'm not perfect. but yeah, I mean Sam Mendes being back and Daniel Craig, and I'm prepared if Spectre is as good as Skyfall or better. I'm probably going to say Daniel Craig is the best James Bond now, even over Connery, and maybe that's blasphemy, but
I think he might already be.
I only hold off on saying that because Quantum of Solace really just didn't do anything for me, and again because Casino didn't
Was
quite,
so good.
It was good. It just didn't feel like
No, it didn't feel like a James Bond movie.
Yeah,
but it
exactly.
felt like a really good movie.
Yes, and that's why I'm like, but then Skyfall really did it, and then if Spectre turns out the same way as Skyfall, then yeah, absolutely, I'm on board. I mean, I remember back when they first cast Daniel Craig, and like, a blonde James Bond, there's no way this is going to work, and I'm like, well, yeah, it works. So yeah, Spectre, I'm right on board with you. I want to see that coming in out in November.
See, I'm only hesitant about Craig. I mean, he signed on for one more after Spectre. If they take another 3 years, he's going to be what, mid-50s or something?
That's certainly possible. I mean, I don't remember how old Connery or even Roger Moore were when they were reaching the end of their careers, James Bond. So maybe
And that's also the reason. I mean, we can discuss James Bond in its entirety some other time, but that's why I don't think Idris Elba is ever going to be James Bond. He's too old to start now.
No, that's what made me think of Idris Elba was that.
Yeah, that's the problem for me. It's not that he's black. It's not anything else. It's that he's too old to start being James Bond, to sign on for a bunch of movies.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. I mean, as long as they don't replace him with Jai Courtney, then we'll be okay.
If Jai Courtney becomes James Bond, I'll never watch another movie again. I'll make that pledge right here and now.
I would almost be willing to sign on with that for you, because yeah, that would just be terrible. Now, if they got somebody, I don't know, maybe Tom Hiddleston or
Tom Hardy.
Yeah, Tom Hardy. Yeah, Tom Hardy maybe if they kept him around only for a brief period. I don't know.
He's young enough. He's only like 32 or something.
Possibly. I mean, Daniel Craig was the same way. So it's one of those things where we can speculate all day, but until you actually see the man in the suit and doing James Bond stuff, you're never going to necessarily know fully how good they're going to be.
No.
Because I mean, we all and heck, we thought Pierce Brosnan was going to be really good, especially after seeing Goldeneye. But then it just went down to the point where I mean, Die Another Day was so bad that they scrapped James Bond for years before Casino Royale came out. So who knows? I mean, but either way, I mean, it sounds like we're both very hopeful and confident for Spectre. So absolutely.
What's next on your list?
This one is going to amuse you. It's the Peanuts movie. So
lovely. You
recently revealed to me you are not a Peanuts fan, and that depresses me. Okay, well, I am a Peanuts fan, and the trailers I've seen, I'm
look horrible.
Well, not really. I mean, I'm somewhat mixed. I'm not so much that it's Peanuts. What worries me is Blue Sky Studios doing the animation. Now, Blue Sky is the guys that did Rio and Rio 2 and Epic, and
none of which were good.
Exactly. Well, Rio was okay. The Epic was terrible, and Rio 2 was terrible. But yeah, I'm worried about that. But what I've seen in the trailer has looked adorable, and they get the spirit of Peanuts, and so I'm hopeful. If they screw this up, I mean, I'm going to be right on board and wanting to burn them in effigy, because don't mess with Peanuts for me. But
see, I don't care about Peanuts to begin with, because I was never a fan as a kid, which probably speaks more to my childhood than anything. But the movie itself, it doesn't, from what I've seen from the trailers, it just doesn't look good.
I mean, I'm going to obviously disagree, because just because the only real trailer we've seen so far has been, Snoopy doing the Red Baron sequence, which, I mean, that's pretty accurate to what the comics have, and I still find it, and I mean, yeah, I'm somewhat blinded by nostalgia, because yes, I love Peanuts, but I know, I'm hopeful for it. Again, it may turn out to be a complete disaster, and if it's a complete disaster, I will say as much, probably with pitchfork in hand, because Blue Sky will have ruined something I love. But
I'll light the torches.
I'll be right there with you. But I have to be hopeful, because it is Peanuts, and if they can really match the spirit of the comics and these characters, that, I mean, they've been beloved for decades by at least most people. I'm going to be right on board and loving it. So that's...
It's okay. If they mess it up, they'll just make another Ice Age and make back their money.
Those things. Okay, but anyway, moving more to happy thoughts away from Ice Age. What's on next on your list?
The next on mine is Mockingjay Part 2, the finale to the Hunger Games franchise. And I put it on here because I really liked the first two movies. And prior to The Hobbit 3 sucking, the Part 2s of these split movies have always been really good. And I'm hoping that that's the case with the Hunger Games.
I can see that being the case, and I do share the same hope that the second one ends up being a lot better than the first one, because the first one really was not. A major step back on that. It's not on my list, mostly because, the first Mockingjay kind of wore out its welcome a little bit, and I'm not the most massive Hunger Games fan. I think the first movie was decent. I thought Catching Fire was even better, and then Mockingjay was a massive step backwards from both of those films. So, but yeah, I can certainly understand and accept the point that, these part twos are generally better. So, I mean, obviously, I'm gonna still see it. I'm somewhat curious. It's not on my list, but I certainly understand why it is on yours.
I mean, we've spent how many hours now building to this? It's got to pay off pretty well.
If it doesn't, then you're going to get a lot of vitriol. Especially, I mean, the Mockingjay book is the worst of the three anyway, so it's most likely, from what I remember from the book, going to be a lot of action sequences, and you'll get some character interaction. That's honestly the other thing that concerns me, is that I think the problems of the first one are going to translate into the second one, other than the action sequences are going to be more large in scale, especially the big one that's coming. I mean, everybody knows there's a big battle coming, because this is the last one.
This is war. War is coming.
Exactly. So there's going to be a big, especially because it involves them sneaking into the capital city and sneaking around all the security and trying to get into the president's house or whatever. And that might translate to be good, but
I doubt it, considering the sneaking around part of Mockingjay Part 1 was one of the worst scenes.
Exactly, and that's why I'm really concerned about it, because I don't know if these sequences are going to work, because I mean, what made the first two movies good is they gave us the arena sequences, which we can quibble about the mechanics of that all we want, but whatever. Especially in Catching Fire, they made that part interesting and good as action sequences were. In Mockingjay Part 1, the action sequences were just not that good on the whole.
And there weren't really many of them.
No, there weren't. And so there's clearly going to be more in the second one, because we're going to a big battle sequence. And there will be a lot of issues with that. I mean, the entire Hunger Games franchise is basically PTSD the movie, and it's going to get even worse in Mockingjay Part 2. I can promise you that. But I mean, like I said, I'm going to see it just because I want to end out this franchise. But I'm
cautiously optimistic. I guess is the best way.
That's a fair. I think that's a fair way of putting it. Is you can be curious, but maybe.
So what's next on your list?
Next one for me is The Hateful Eight.
Yes.
So the main reason I'm on board with this is Mr. Tarantino.
Yeah.
Now, say what you want about the man personally, fine, but I love his movies, period. It was interesting when he had the big blow up last year with the script got leaked, and he said he wasn't going to make it.
And then a few weeks later, he's like, "Oh yeah, we're making it anyway."
Yeah, I was like, "Well, wait a minute." And then, I mean, you look at this cast: Channing Tatum, Samuel L. Jackson. Tim Roth is back, and he's got Bruce Dern coming in, Demi Bashir. So I'm like, okay, you're Tarantino, and you've got a great cast. I mean, the plot's a little weird just because it's about bounty hunters taking shelter during a blizzard, and so they start betraying and backstabbing each other. But revenge and betraying and backstabbing is kind of one of Tarantino's fortes. I mean, if Reservoir Dogs taught us anything, that's one of the big things he's really good at, is these close quarters revenge sequences. Yes. Would you like an ear? So, but yeah, I was really into Django Unchained, and then obviously we've mentioned Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill I'm mixed on, because Volume 1 is good, Volume 2 is not.
If you say so.
Okay, fine. And then Inglourious Bastards is amazing as well. So, I mean, it's Tarantino. I got to be there for Tarantino on that one.
See, I was kind of happy when the script leaked and he said he wasn't going to make it.
Why is that?
Because while I liked Django, it was probably my third least favorite Tarantino movie.
Really?
After Jackie Brown and Death Proof.
Okay.
It was... And I didn't want to see him do another Western.
Even though it's like spaghetti Western is like one of his big things.
Yeah, I know. But I wanted to see him do something else. Because his one foray into it wasn't the greatest. Now, maybe with practice makes perfect. Maybe he'll get a better editor this time. I mean, that was the main problem with Django. It's just way too long.
That's fair.
And also to be fair to it, I saw it at a press screening, which was delayed 50 minutes.
Wow.
So we sat there in a theater for 50 minutes before the 2-hour 50-minute movie.
Yeah.
So that could have colored my opinion a little bit. I still liked it, just didn't love it as much as I did most of his other movies.
Yeah, I can certainly see, especially with being delayed that long, that would make me. I mean, I don't know if I'd have stayed necessarily, but I can certainly see that coloring your opinion of the film itself.
So I was happy. I was like, okay, he'll go do something else, and then he's like, he'll do it. So okay, fine. It didn't make my list because I didn't love Django, and because I'm really hoping he finds a better editor.
One can only hope. I think we're down to our final picks. Is that correct?
I have three left.
Okay, so somehow we got out of order. So, okay, well,
then how many do you have left?
I have 10, so I only have one left. So I guess
it's my turn.
Yeah, well, it's your turn for a couple of them then.
All right, my next one is Crimson Peak.
Just
Guillermo del Toro making another movie. That's about all you need to know. I mean,
pretty much.
It's Guillermo del Toro, who has a very good track record.
Oh yeah,
it's another. I believe it's a horror movie.
I think it's a remake.
Horror-ish. Is it?
I think so.
I haven't read a whole lot about it. I just know that Guillermo del Toro.
Oh yeah, I'm on board. I'm on board. It's Del Toro. I mean, say what you will about Pacific Rim and what have you, but
I have.
It's still Guillermo del Toro. We're still going to see it, and I mean, Pan's Labyrinth and the 2 Hellboy movies, and I mean, just everything in his back catalog. Even the bad stuff is worth checking out at some point because
it's all visually interesting, if nothing else.
Yes, you hit that. I mean, that's the one thing that you always remember from a Guillermo del Toro film is the design of his stuff. I mean, whether it's, again, the creepy characters in Pan's Labyrinth to the giant Jaegers and kaiju monsters in Pacific Rim, and, I mean, even... I mean, he often gets linked to Peter Jackson to a point because they have a semi-similar visual style, but...
They also worked on the Hobbit movies together.
Indeed they did. And Del Toro, I think, is a bit flashier in his design, and I like his designs generally better than Jackson. But, yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. It's Del Toro. Sign me up.
Here's basically what I'll say about Del Toro. His designs, just the designs, nothing else about the filmmaking, in Pan's Labyrinth was scarier than anything in The Woman in Black 2.
Yes! Absolutely. I mean,
you could have a statue of some of the creature designs in Pan's Labyrinth, and they would scare me more.
Yeah, or just look at the DVD cover with the fawn on it, and I'm like, yeah, that's creepier than anything in The Woman in Black. Just looking at it, it's creepier than looking at The Woman in Black.
And that's without any type of filmmaking.
Yes.
And then he's a good filmmaker on top of that.
Yes.
So that's why I'm on board for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Next on my list is a sequel, Pitch Perfect 2.
Ooh.
The trailer has me very worried.
Yes.
The trailer is not good. The trailer scares me. However, the first movie was great. The first movie was hilarious. And it's Elizabeth Banks directing, which I think is interesting.
Really?
Yeah. She I believe made her directorial debut in movie 43, which is not a ringing endorsement. I can't remember which segment she directed. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I can't remember either, but that's the thing. It was directed by like 13 different people, so
there were a lot of different directors on it. But she directed a segment in that, and then she's still in this movie as the same character she was in the first one, which is one of the sarcastic announcers of the
Acapella?
There you go. The
Which,
singing tournaments.
yes, I still can't believe that the World Championships of Acapella is a thing.
It's totally a thing. And this one finds the Bellas competing on the world stage instead of just in the school. So it'll probably not be good, but it's Pitch Perfect, and I love Pitch Perfect, so
it's
I
one of
gotta
those
see it.
morbid curiosities that you just gotta stick to because of loyalty purposes. I get it.
Yeah.
So,
You who didn't see Pitch Perfect 1.
hey, I will be catching it at some point.
So what's last on your list?
Oh, the last one for me is The Revenant, which
Okay.
not much is known about this. It's basically about it's set in the 1820s with this old West frontiersman, and he gets attacked by a bear, and these mercenaries come and save him, but then they leave him for dead, and so then he starts to get revenge. Now, the thing that makes me interested, firstly, Tom Hardy and Leo DiCaprio as two of your main characters. Okay, you've got me sold right there.
As DiCaprio chases another Oscar.
Yeah.
He once again chases an Oscar, I should say.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And heck, if Tom Hardy can chase it, keep chasing, he's hadn't been nominated, so I want to get some love for that guy. I mean, we've already discussed him at length. But then the other big thing, writing and directing, Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu. I said at the top that Birdman is the movie that made me start coming back to writing about movies. This is his next film. Babel was one thing, Birdman was a whole other, and so now The Revenant, I'm there. I got to see what he does next. He's a visual stylist in a different way than Del Toro, but the way he frames everything he does is so precise that you just can't help but be mesmerized by it in some way. Now, again, Birdman was a higher level of this, but I got to see more in Iñárritu. I want to know what this guy does next. And again, you throw in Tom Hardy and Leo DiCaprio. I mean, these are two of my favorite actors working today, so I got to be there.
Not to mention the Christmas release date, which is almost always a good thing for films like this.
Generally.
It also might mean that we won't see it until 2016, though.
Probably. I think right now it's not expected to get wide release until the second week of January.
It really depends, though. I mean, DiCaprio and Hardy are DiCaprio's a household name. Hardy's becoming one. They might be able to market it wide.
I hope so. I mean, I must admit, you brought this up earlier. I'm annoyed by this limited release thing where it comes out in like 4 theaters in New York and Los Angeles on Christmas Day, and the rest of us don't get to see it until like 3 weeks later, and in some places even longer than that. So I'm like, can we please just... It's an Oscar bait movie. We know it's an Oscar bait movie. Put it out and
let us see it.
And I mean, people are going to go see it because they know it's a Christmas movie or a Christmas Day movie, even though it's not about Christmas. But it's
maybe it will be. Maybe it'll be the Die Hard of our generation.
Yeah. Although that joke has been worn to death at this point. But
yes.
Yeah. So, like I said, Iñárritu, DiCaprio, Hardy. I'm there.
I'm in.
So yep, I'm in. So, what's the last thing on your list?
So this is one that you dared me to put on my list.
Yes.
I have saved the worst for last, and it is 50 Shades of Grey. The Twilight fan fiction turned novel turned movie. This is it's a morbid curiosity one. I haven't read the book. I'm not going to read the book. I know very, very little about the book, apart from, its subject matter.
Yep.
But, it might not be terrible.
Yeah, said with much, much grains of salt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you said morbid curiosity. I'm like, it's a bad fan fiction of a bad book series. It's already been turned into a bad film series in its own right. Why does this movie exist? And beyond that, I'm just like, okay, yes, it exists, so fine, I'll see it because I'm a critic and what have you. But yeah, I wasn't even necessarily being serious when I dared you to put this on this list. But hey, you've done it, so now we get a few laughs. Yay!
Well, it's there, and I'm generally like I'd rather see it than generic romantic comedy number 600.
This is true, especially for Valentine's. Well, that's the other ironic thing is it comes out on Valentine's Day weekend, so I guess
Well, that was a good plan.
yeah, that's going to make it interesting. But unfortunately, it also opens against Kingsman, and I'm like, yeah, I wonder which one of those I want to see more.
See, I think what's going to happen a lot on Valentine's Day is the women are going to go see that, the guys are going to go see Kingsman. It's going to be a split date.
Possibly, unless of course it has the Twilight effect, and the women drag their significant others to 50 Shades of Grey, and so we can get the romance, quote-unquote, element of that for the women, and we get the titillation from the subject matter. For the guys, maybe.
From what I understand, though, it's mostly been a for women's.
Oh yeah, it's definitely.
It's not something that women have been trying to get their men to read or anything. So I feel like maybe they'll just go see it alone and be like, "This is our thing. Leave us be."
And that may be very well true. I mean, let's face it, it was called mommy porn when it was released as book form, so we'll see. It's like I said, I'm also.
It's interesting, if nothing else.
Yes, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, did you see 50 Shades of Grey? Wasn't that so weird? Sort of thing. So we'll see. I mean, Valentine's Day weekend, like we said, it's going to be interesting.
So that about does it. That brings us to the conclusion of the inaugural episode of Man and Man at the Movies. You can follow Gerald on Twitter at FilmFlashNC and on his website at filmflashnc.blogspot.com. I'm on the Twitter as well at MurderTweet and on the web at boxofficeboredom.com. Send us your comments at any of the above or on whichever site you're listening to this from, iTunes or might be on YouTube or something, I don't know. We'll find out where we're putting it and you'll listen to it from there. Next week we've got Taken 3 and a couple of 2014 movies that are finally getting their nationwide expansions, Inherent Vice and Selma. We'll also be discussing our favorite and least favorite trilogies of all time, inspired by the week's wide release, Taken 3. Until next time, this is Matt and Matt at the Movies, signing off.
Take care. Bye.